Hey guys, it's Carol and thank you for stopping by for my stitching update. It has been a week since my last video and I have to tell you that getting off of social media on Wednesday has given me so much time back in my life. It's the worst. I had been justifying, oh, it's only 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and wouldn't even be like the thing of me scrolling my phone when I'm away from home, although I was doing more of that than I should. But it was actually the, oh, well, dinner, I just put the water on to boil for something I'm making for dinner. I know it's going to take me 15 minutes. I don't want to get too involved in anything. I'll just scroll and see what there is to see. It'll be fine. Of course. And, you do that. You tell yourself that lie. Oh, it's only 20 minutes, 3 times a day, and you've just lost an hour. I know. If you put it like that, it is so obvious. I can't believe I'm, sitting here and, hello, Captain Obvious, sitting here talking to you. But I have gotten so much done. In the last week, for me, I feel so much better about how much I've been able to do. And also finding that I'm if I have a 10 minutes here or 10 minutes there, there's stuff I can fit in and get done, including honestly some stitching. Been a little bad about leaving all my projects in the hoop. Sometimes with literally the needle and a thread, mid-stitch, put it down, go do the thing that has to be done, I don't know, make dinner, and then you come back and you're like, okay, well, I just finished this thread, and I'm getting, like I said, I'm actually finding all of those little, didn't spend this much time this week doing sit down, dedicated, I'm gonna take 2 hours of my life and put on TV and stitch. I have done less of that, to be honest. I've had other stuff I've been working on in those time blocks, but I've gotten so much more of the 10 minutes here, I'm all those snatches of time, I'm cross stitching. So I'm just in that case going to jump right into the whips. First up is going to be my daily 30 piece. That is Modern Folk Embroidery's No Time Like the Present, which is the stitch along from last year, and I am trying to stay on the same timeline, but completed it in 2025. Here's what was last time. I said that I was just going to stitch across with March. I actually kind of lied. I came back up here and filled in finished this part of February. So February is actually all the way to the halfway mark now, perfectly, and I'm down into March with here. So this is a 36 count fabric. It's creme brulee. I believe it's R&R Reproductions. I am using my DMC colors are 844 for this darker chunk and 645 for my lighter color. This was very, I'm going to say it's monotonous. You're filling it, so there's a moon here. You can see this shape, obviously the shape here. It's a lot of fill in. I didn't want to play guessing games, so I was like, I'll just fill that one down. Probably will do that on the other side for the part. Then once I get over here, then I'll just jet across to the end of March and then fill in later as I have time. That's kind of my plan. But here's the thing. It is March 11th, which if I'm tracking, I really need to have about a third of March done. Well, I am closer to that third than it probably looks. I don't know, it's getting the 30 minutes a day. And then this one is when I have been leaving in the hoop, honestly, all week for all of the 10 minutes, because it is really helpful for me to be able to, that's where I was able to fill in and finish out all of that February that I hadn't done, getting this done. So I took it with me to kids' sporting events. That seems to be what I do with Modern Folk Embroidery pieces, but it's coming along. At the beginning of the month, I probably wasn't doing a very good job of it, but I was trying to hide how discouraged I felt about having fallen behind in February. And the problem is once I fall behind, then I start beating myself up. There's no reason to. A project is a project, it'll get done in its own good time, and you can have all the best intentions in the world, and life will happen. And that's fine, right? I understand that. You understand that. The world, we get that. The problem is you can still have an expectation. In this case, my expectation is I want to get this done by the end of October. And anything that seems like it's short of meeting that expectation makes me feel disappointed. Because I tend to get overly ambitious in how much stitching I can get done in a year. And so that's why I was like, oh, this is bad. And now I'm like, okay, I'll get there. Seriously, I am feel the other thing I just discovered going down it, I was loving stitching. I'm enjoying this. This part has turned out to be very meditative. It stitches almost pretty fast because other than counting where it's going to be the one star that I'm you basically leave out a stitch and just skip over it and continue the row. Like, it goes pretty fast. And I thought I'd get more bored by it, but apparently this is a very easy fill-in a way that this is not. They're very similar, but it's funny just how sometimes it's like, it'll be just that slight difference that makes it easier. I don't know. I just know. I'm really happy with how this is coming along. It's doing great as a daily 30. I still kind of struggling to find the right prompt for those days when my husband is working from home. But now I'm thinking it's going to be, I have left over from when the kids were younger, a timer that does like the 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, like you rotate it and you can set a timer. Anyway, so maybe setting a 30-minute block for those for those days when, like I said, my husband's working from home, so that I do get it done. But yeah, this is coming along and I feel so much more optimistic this week than I did last week. I mentioned, I think in several videos now, but I have been kind of working on just writing down what kind of projects I want to work on any given day. It's worked out pretty well for me, and honestly, I have not been deviating from my written plans until this week. And it was, the weather changed and it's spring, everything's blooming. My allergies are absolutely a mess. And I have to go to the allergist at the end of the month. And so my daily Zyrtec I can't take for 2 weeks prior. So I'm going to be miserable. But anyway, springtime made me want to pull this one out. So this is Rosewood Manor's Dreaming in Tulips. Here's where it was last time. My only intention was to finish out this motif, which was mostly done. The leaves were done. This outer petal, it was just this, that's what I thought I was going to fill in. This is a 32 count white linen, and because I bought, I don't know if this was like a half yard, I don't remember, I've misplaced the piece of linen that I actually cut it out of. Anyway, so I cut this to size, but I gave myself only a 2-inch margin, and I did that at the time deliberately because it seemed like a bright idea. I don't know what the bright idea was. It was probably having to do with preserving the chunk left over where I was cutting, that there was something I could do with it, but anyway, in the corners, like this one I really struggled with, and over here was my favorite hoop, absolute favorite hoop. It's just a 12-inch birch hoop, got it at my old L&S. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit these corners at all. My 10-inch does. I don't like the 10-inch hoop as much as I like the 12-inch, and it still gets very crabby. So I was like, you know what? I'm not really going to hurt anything. Let's pull out the Nerge. So the Nerge hoop fit perfectly, like, because it doesn't mind. I mean, with the kind of squared off edges, it doesn't mind that you were like, have no margin to work with. So then I was like, well, I got that. And I was like, well, I'm just going to finish some of this back stitching. Oh, while I'm here, it filled in there, but it was filling in this, and like, this was way more than I intended when I picked it up. I just really was like, oh, I want to get that. But, you know, sometimes you're feeling it. You want to keep working on a project, and I kept working on this right up until I was like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. So hey, I probably won't pull this out again for a couple weeks. I don't know, I guess it depends on if it's calling to me. I haven't worked out this week's schedule yet. I was going to do that after I finished filming, but I'm not really feeling this for the next week, but I'm thinking later in the month. Yes. So I don't know, but this one is really delightful. The only thing is I substituted out the DMC for the green. So it's DMC 730, and then it's 732 and 734 are what I'm using for that lighter. I'm not doing it as a blend, but I'm kind of thinking, I don't know. I've been, don't like the 734. It's a little too bright. So most of this is the 732. I'm not always a fan of the overdyed flosses. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they don't work for me. I don't feel like I needed to have the darker, like I actually like the 730, but I wish that I had the variegated floss for the lighter green. Live and learn. I think this was it was an experiment where I was like, would I be happy with just doing the variegated for what really stood out? Like, I mean, this, like, I love, because some of these are very variegated. Like, I love how it comes out here. And then, I don't know, I guess the more I do this, the more I'm like, I really like just doing it with the called for flosses, not particularly need, like, substituting for the sake of substituting annoys me. And I'm finding that that's how I feel about the greens at this point. It's fine. Next is Mirabilia Designs Winter Queen. This is kind of my focus piece for until it's complete. Here's where it was last time. Got a little bit done. So I know I called this my focus piece. It really is my focus. It's the one I most want done, although it's probably not going to be the next one that I complete. But I didn't spend a huge amount of time on it, mostly because No Time Like the Present was monopolizing the hoop that I like to put it in. Again, it's that 12-inch hoop. I only have one. I'm really happy with this swag because at least you can now see all this white that I had been doing. The color is great. Problem. It's not even like I'm bored of the DMC. It's that I just really, I think I feel called to do the beading and I haven't sat down to pull out the beads. That's it. Like, it's a very small thing, but when I pick this up now, I am feeling called towards get more of the beading done, get more of the beading done. So I'm thinking that's gonna be my plan for this week is honestly to work in here. I don't know how much I'll get done, but do a little more of that. Because the problem is this is now looking all lovely and complete, but because of where her arms are, she's covering most of her torso. It just looks incomplete in comparison, and I don't know. I'm just kind of feeling, like I said, do some of the beading now, then I'll come back. Because this part I'm working in, it's not a lot of colors, which is fine. They're beautiful. I love the effect. It just means that I think I want to just mess with some different colors. So I'm going to give myself that opportunity. A project I haven't pulled out in a while and seemed kind of just for a fun change of pace is this Busilla kit. It is called Summer Symphony, and this is a vintage piece from 1994. The artist is Aaron Dirtner of Cooler Design Studio, and this is where I was last time. Oh, Ada. I know, I said this last week, but I'm going to say it again. Holding up the Ada is so nice because I don't have to use a board, and I mean, I don't mind. It's just a leftover piece of foam core that's kind of beat up, but it, it provides the job. It does it great for like all the linens, but I like that this makes it, and this one's kind of a stiff Ada, to be honest, so it is really well mannered and isn't trying to like flop over on my hand. I didn't do a lot with this, or probably, I don't know. On one hand, I feel like I got a lot done, but I know I was just working the leaves here where it was like just kind of some dark green. So I added in, it's the lightest green because I was trying to finish, what it really is I don't want to do a huge amount of counting. So as I'm jumping over here and I'm counting by 2s and 3s, it is easier to then go back in and fill the sky, which is what I was really trying to do. So here, it's pretty much all the way done. There is some back stitching that needs to be done. That's the thing. I want to do the back stitching of the roof line of this house, but I need to get down to where the next roof is. So the sky goes about 3 more rows down, and then the rest of the house continues that way. I forgot how much I enjoy this piece. Like, I was not this one was one of those I was gonna pull out, do like 3 strands of whatever, like pulled and be like, okay, good enough. And I love it. I don't even want to put it down. I'm like, oh, I want to come work in the windows. I want to work in the tree. I want to like work everywhere. The problem is I a little struggle to focus on this one. So, but I really like the color. So I think what I'm going to do is honestly continue across the top and then just work on a filling down over time. I mean, probably like fill in down here, get some more of the roof. But that is like my general like impression. That's what I think I want to do with it. But this is just like, I love it. I love how easy it is. There's not a ton of colors. The colors that I use, they're vibrant. It's on a 14 count Ada, which is easy no matter what the lighting is. And I can't believe that I have to do the it's easy on my eyeballs, but I don't have great lighting in my stitching spot. Okay, that's not fair. I have a really great craft lamp that I can get super great lighting. The problem is that super great lighting is very blue, and I struggle to sleep at night. Like, I don't struggle to sleep. I struggle to fall asleep. Once I get to sleep, I'm fine. But the problem is I'm pretty sensitive to evening lighting. So I basically have just accepted that at night, if I'm going to do any cross stitching, it is going to be under less than optimal lighting conditions, and that because it, from a health standpoint, is better for me. And I will tell you that it does make a difference. It shouldn't, but it does. But something like this, I don't see in just the regular, so in the room I stitch in, there's an overhead light that is very glaring. We don't like to use it. I have basically a table lamp, and it's got a pretty thick lampshade on it, so, and it's not right over where I'm stitching. So I have light, I can see, and it's the light bulb is actually pretty good as far as color resolution. It's at like 3000 Kelvin, but it's one of those that the later it gets, the more tired I get. I can definitely feel which projects are easier to work on. This is like so easy. Some of my others, not so much. They're definitely stitch in daylight, stitch in the morning, stitch with magnifier. I mean, any number of things, but I guess it's just one of those realities is that you have to, like, you can sit in the same chair, because I use the same chair. It's like covered in all my cross stitch stuff, my poor husband. And at different points of the day, it works better for different projects. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. But yeah, like I said, I will tell you that, and the other thing that helps, this is a mostly full coverage piece. So I love Adas for anything that is a full coverage. Now, so my biggest full coverage is on a 25 count Lagana. It's also, I mean, it's huge. And that one definitely, like, even in good daylight, I'm still using my reading glasses, because reading glasses are just very mild magnifiers. I find actual magnifiers to not be at the right part of, like, my focal length for stuff, but like just reading glasses, perfect for that sort of thing. I try not to use them too much, just because sometimes they make my head hurt. It's usually because it's late. I have lots of reasons. I'm sorry, like, you probably don't care that much about my optical issues or whatever. But the point is, for something like this, it's also designed where it's some of the things I love about some of these older kits. Actually, the older kits, I mean, the Dimensions Gold, even today, they designed to work on these count fabrics, and it doesn't look super pixelated. It looks deliberate. And not all full coverage does that. Some of them, if you blow them up, just look pixelated because they were just run through a computer program with no work done to really figure out what would make it best from a stitching standpoint and for a finished product. Like I said, I really feel like pretty much all of these kits do that. Next, I pulled out McMiller by Long Dog Samplers. Here's what it was last time. And it made some decent progress. You're gonna say, decent progress? I finished this dog, I gave him the crown, I did more of the border, started this dog. Like, this was way, way more than I intended to do. Okay. This is also the second project this week that the Nerd Hoop saved. This cut of fabric does not fit in the diameter of the 12-inch hoop. It is like, if you try to stretch, you can't get that drum effect. It wants to at the edge, whatever. So I've been doing this in the 10-inch. I think the reason I don't like the 10-inch hoop has a lot to do with my complete lack of ergonomics when I sit in my chair. So other people have, like, you know, stands to, like, to hold their stuff. I stitch two-handed. I guess I should make that really clear. So it's my left hand on top. I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to control. The right hand, where I can't see it, goes under the fabric because it's easier for me to control than my left hand. And honestly, it works out pretty well. I feel like with how I do my projects, I tend to like to go from the lower left to the upper right, so the pulling of the thread works out, like, really spot on. Okay, the problem is to hold up my hoop or my Q-snap. I do this with the Q-snap too. It's money. I know that, like, I just feel ridiculous having done that. But it's how I sit in the chair. And so my chair, it's a club chair. It is upholstered all the way around. The arm is, like, right at elbow level. So my elbows sit here. The knee is kind of holding up the, either on the back of the fabric, or it works for me. It looks completely, I mean, I'm sure I'd be making a chiropractor cry if they could see how I do this. And the 10-inch doesn't work. It's not tall enough for my lap. When I do that, I can, but I'm like crabbing around in ways that are uncomfortable. My Nurge, and it is the number 4 size, so I think the largest. I am gonna have to double check on that, but it is just big enough that I can use it like my 12-inch hoop. But the things that I don't fit in the 12-inch, really, I've been using the 10-inch for. So I have in like all of this fits, and I was able to now. And this has more of a margin. This is a 3-inch margin on all sides, so this one does not have the same, suffer from the same problems of some of my other like too tight margin problems. It's not very wide, because when I bought the fabric, I literally went in with the design size, like on my phone, like, hey, it's going to be this many, because I wasn't even sure what size fabric I wanted to buy. I am the kind of person who wanders in, basically says, this is the stitch count of the chart that I'm doing. What do you think? Because I don't always necessarily know. Like, sometimes I want to, I said, okay, and it said, I think I prefer using these called for flosses. Absolutely. I never use the called for fabrics. I have one project that I use the called for size count. I don't love it. Like, it's to me an awkward, like, if I were to do it again, I would pick a completely different count. Again, I mean, these are things that I now know. It's fine. So you'll never see, like, I will pick a 28 count if it's something that I really think needs that. And I guess I will say, my Mirabilia is. I do all of those. They're generally called for on 32 count, so I do them on 32 count because I'm not going to mess around with like the beads. The Stargazer is on a 28 count. It's called for a 28 count. And because of the beads on it, absolutely, like, I would, but I don't tend to pick like 28 otherwise. I don't really tend to pick 14 if I'm doing Ada. Like 16, 18 is what I like. On linens, I have like now all sorts, and you'll note I don't have a lot of even weaves. I have the one piece on Lugana, but everything else I have is, not everything. I mean, I have the Vertil. I guess I think of myself as a linen stitcher. I use more than linen, but anyway, so this is like a 36 count linen. I'm doing this 2/2. I love the coverage on it because of all the black. I am starting to really like 1/2 on 36 count, but again, 2/2. And when I'm doing, like, if I'm using Ada, an 18 count, I am absolutely using 2/1. I guess it's fine. You figure out what are the things. But anyway, so when I go in, I'm a lot of times not necessarily certain exactly what size I want a project to be. I am looking for what is the right color. And sometimes it's, okay, and I prefer going to my LNS over mail ordering. Although I'm not above mail ordering, because as far as I'm concerned, I have plenty of stitchy dollars, and I spread them around to various vendors because I like to. But I will go and figure out what is the right color that I'm looking for. And in this case, this color, so it's Nantucket Gray, they only had in the 36 count that day. All their 40 counts were some forms of like brown or beautiful colors, but they weren't what I was called for this project, and they didn't have any good. They had grays in 32. They just weren't the ones I wanted. This was the one I wanted. They only had in 36, so 36 it is. And they will cut to measure for you. I don't really know how that works because I have other LNSs who will just be like, here's your fat quarter. My old LNS would actually pretty much only sell you fat quarters. If you want anything different, you had to special order it and get hugely ripped off on it. Like, we won't talk about it. I loved that LNS for everything but fabrics. I love my current LNS for fabrics. It's not always great at some of the other stuff. Like, every shop has the things that they're good at, and it's cool. But anyway, so hence why this one is the exact measurement across. And like, I always wish there was just an inch wider. And then I could be using my beloved 12-inch hoop. But anyway, the Nurge hoop, which I got from yet another LNS, has turned out to be one of the best investments. I don't use it every time. I don't love it every time. But when you need it, it is amazing. Oh, because I don't stitch in hand. Like, ever. For any reason whatsoever. Hate it. All of that to say, different tools are amazing. I am glad that I have that nerd tube so that when I need it, I really need it. And the best part, this project had been a source of frustration the last, like, 3 or 4 times I pulled this out. I have had to frog things. And I didn't have to frog anything. It was like, I don't know, it was smooth sailing on the stitching seas for this one. That was a lot of S sounds. Yeah. But no, like, I was happy to have a winning day on this project because this is one that I do want to get done this year. And I had wondered, was I setting myself up for failure because I don't always like working on it? And I'm like, oh, it's perfect. I have some vague visions of working on a decent amount of Americana for like the next year and a half. And I decided it would probably be helpful instead of running multiples, because I thought about starting one, is to pull out the what I already have, which is the primitive Hare Betsy Ross flag. Here's where it was last time. I didn't spend a huge amount of time on this, but I got this urn finished. There is a base down here. It's in the same color red, but I was like, I was happy to just get to here. It's coming along. So there's the big flower, and this is mostly done. There's a little bit more, but this is almost done. Then I do Betsy Ross, and then I do the flag. So I hadn't had looked at this in like a month. I was like, oh, this is going along much better than I thought. Like, this was only like 3 lengths of floss, and I was like, I'm good enough for now, but it's so pretty. I think it's the colors, stepping away from it really made me like this red. Really trying to remember. I think it's Scarlet Buckeye. Or is it Buckeye Scarlet? I can't remember. One of those. Anyway, it is absolutely gorgeous up close. It's variegated, but it's more on the tonal side. Not particularly like loud, but it is like perfect. And I love how it stitches up. So yeah, I mean, I wish I had more to say about this one. It's a small project and it's great for being what it is. And the last project that I worked on this week, actually was working on it this morning, is Long Dog Sampler's Death by Cross Stitch. Here's where I had it last time. And this is my teeny tiny progress. This is 4 lengths of floss. That sounds about right. Got like bit in here. Brought this border down. I didn't touch the top border, but I brought this one over. And then I started, this will be the background where there's a unicorn right here. So that's the upper left corner. I don't know where the page break is over here. I am not going to stitch it by straight page breaks. Like, I know that there's charts that I've done that with, like a lot of my full coverage, because I really only just stitch on the one page. So the problem with doing that in this is this border, and it's just a 2-row high border, and when you get here, it's 2 columns. It goes all the way around the piece. I don't want to have anything that looks like a page break tension-wise. I'm kind of sensitive about seeing those. And so you'll notice even when I do like my full coverage, I'm always sliding over into the next page so that where my rows end are at the natural point on the stitching and not for the page breaks. So the problem is so they go off into somewhere over here. I think that the 2-row border continues all the way to the other corner. I don't know about this one, and I haven't pulled out the page of the chart to figure out. So I was like, okay, and I'm kind of working this border over, and I think there's like, so I finally figured it out. It sounds bad. You almost have to get far enough in this to see it, because I don't see it very well on the actual chart. Don't ask me why. I don't see, sometimes I see what's going on in the chart, sometimes I don't. This was one I definitely don't. So these are little flowers, and then there's this like border going around the flowers. I was here before I figured out what I was staring at. I mean, I knew there were flowers, but I couldn't have told you how they were arranged. Okay, so I got 3 of these done. There's at least 4 more flowers over here. That puts it close to a page break. This keeps going over until somewhere past the page break, and I want to take this row all the way over to where the end, until you basically there's a space of white, and then turn around and take it back. So the problem is, really, this is all going to be predicated on me getting this border done, but this gets a little tedious. It's beautiful, but tedious stitching. So I was like, that's okay. This is a 20 count white Aida. I am using DMC 3799. It's funny because I always think it's a very dark gray, but I don't think of it as any color. I took it out. I had it with me outside this morning, so relatively morning sunlight, but sun had been up for like an hour and a half. And I didn't realize how blue that gray is until you put it in sunlight. I don't know why that. It was surprised me, because I don't really think of it. I think of it as being just kind of gray and not a dark blue gray. So I hope that makes sense. The other thing, so right now, I realize it bothers me, is the fact that this is right now only the first leg of the stitches, and that I don't like I have shown in videos where I have that before on various projects, but I realize that I do not like having that as a stopping point when I sit here and do my video. But it's like, I don't have time to put in, and I still don't know how far ever I'm going, so I'm not going to get this figured out today. And I was like, this is silly though, just because it's not a complete stitch here compared to these are at least completed. Like, it's such a silly little thing, but it definitely, it sets me back a little bit. So I might pull this out this week just to tidy something up. I don't know, or it might get back in hibernation. I like I said, I haven't planned out what I'm doing this week yet, but it did feel like I wanted to get this one to a little better of a start before I start more things. Death by Cross Stitch is a huge chart. I don't remember how many pages it is, but like, they're not small pages. Like some companies, the pages are smaller than others. I'm not going to say that it's as dense as Heaven and Earth Designs, but I'm not sure it's not. The difference is they don't have any of the numbers, so I haven't counted to see how much it is. I'm looking over, I have the page out from where I was working earlier. I'm going, I'm not sure that is not almost the same number, like the same area as a Hade. And I've never counted how many pages are in the chart, so it's going to take me a while, but I do love how it looks. I love a lot of the Long Dog sampler. Actual samplers look, okay, so this is my second Long Dog, but McMiller is a totally different beast, so I don't really count that. But I want this one. Like, if I had only one Long Dog sampler to make, it is Death by Cross Stitch. But again, it's one of those, it won't get done if I don't sit down and do it. But then again, I'm pretty happy with how much I've gotten done this week, so maybe this upcoming week I can be just as productive. I'm hoping so. So I'm feeling called for starts. But part of it is I know that I can get in the, okay, I'm going to do starts. I'm going to put 500 stitches in it and call it good. And I don't really know if that's particularly a start. I have been kind of like happy with, in the last year, how much I've gotten out of the very beginning stages of projects and have them now in what I'll call the big mid section, where they're between 20 to 80% done. I now have, like, for a long time I had a bunch of projects that were in that 10, 5, 15, like, they were really just barely new starts. Now I have a whole bunch that we'll call them a little more matured, but they're not near their end point. And then so it's like, the point is, if I'm going to start things, I don't want to have a whole bunch of like just starts. That's not, honestly, it's a little stressful for me. It's not particularly interesting viewing for you guys. So I am trying to, at least the stuff that I have started, that I'm really like making that effort. So I have a bunch of new starts that I want to do. I haven't really solidified exactly, and I'm trying to tell myself that I can only do like 2 for right now. I have a bunch that I want to do, but that's neither here nor there. The big problem, I have fabric for all of these. I pretty much I guess I pre-bought all the fabric I'm expecting to start with this year, because I was trying to, if I have all the fabric in hand, then I can minimize buying patterns, which is my weakness. It's kind of the idea. I do need to get floss for it, and I tend to go to the big box stores for floss. Oh, Joanne, you break my heart. I used to like love when you'd have DMC as a doorbuster at Joann. But all of the big box retailers of those, they're in an area that it's not far from my house, but it's the like least unfun driving, period. I don't even know why. It just is. So if I'm only going for floss, I have been putting it off because again, I don't need any starts. I know this, whatever. But next week I might have 1 or 2, maybe 2. I hope not 2. I hope it's only 1. And if I've kicked it into the following week, well, I guess that's okay too. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you've enjoyed my stitching. I appreciate you spending time with me. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back again. I'm going to say hopefully next week with yet more stitchy goodness. In the meantime, take care. I'll see you then. Bye.